I'm sure you've heard the news. Welcome to The Human Curious, Baba Yaga. The name was a shadow. It was a story told by firelight. Children knew it, adults remembered it sometimes. She was the witch of the deep woods, the one with the iron teeth, the one who flew in a mortar. Her house stood on chicken legs, it danced, it spun, it walked where it willed. She was old, older than the oldest trees. She guarded the borders between worlds. Her tales came from Slavic lands, from Russia, from Poland, from places with long memories. She was not always evil, not always kind. She was a force, like a storm or a deep river. You did not anger Baba Yaga. You might ask her for help if you were brave or very foolish or desperate. She tested souls. She offered wisdom, sometimes at a price, always at a price. Her stories were warnings and invitations. For generations she was a myth, a creature of the wild, untamed places, far from cities, far from modern lights. She belonged to the dark earth, to the whispering leaves, to the silence of the snowbound forest. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, share and like. Stay curious. It appeared overnight where a dusty, vacant lot had been. Now there was a house, a small wooden house. It looked ancient. The wood was dark, gnarled, like bones, and it stood on two enormous chicken legs. Yellow, scaly chicken legs, complete with formidable talons. They dug into the cracked pavement as if the house had just walked there and decided to stay for a while. It was quite a sight. No one saw it arrive. One moment, emptiness. The next, the hut. It had a crooked chimney. A wisp of strange-smelling smoke curled from it. Not wood smoke, something else, something herbal, and something metallic. The windows were small, like dark eyes. They seemed to watch the street. The people hurried past. They stared, they whispered. They crossed the street. Some took photos with their phones. The house did not care. It just stood. A sign hung above the door, roughly painted on a piece of warped wood. It read, Baba's Brews and Fates. Below it, in smaller letters, Know Your Tomorrow Today. The chicken legs occasionally twitched. One talon would tap. The house would shift. A fence surrounded the small yard. Not a normal fence. It seemed to be made of bones, bleached white, smooth to the touch, or so one imagined. Skulls topped some of the posts. Their empty sockets seemed to gaze, not unkindly, just observantly. A small gate, also of bone, creaked open if you dared to push it. It was a threshold between the mundane world and something else entirely, something ancient. The path to the door was made of flat stones. They felt warm underfoot, even on a cool day. Strange herbs grew beside the path. Some glowed faintly in the dim light. Others whispered as you passed, like dry leaves or old secrets. The air here was different, thicker, heavy with unspoken things. The sounds of the city faded, replaced by a low hum, the thrum of magic and the distant clucking of giant unseen chickens. Inside it was dim and surprisingly cozy in a strange, unsettling way. Mismatched wooden tables and chairs filled the small space. Candles flickered on each table. Their light cast dancing shadows. Herbs hung in bunches from the low ceiling. Dried mushrooms, strings of peppers and other things. Things not easily named. The walls were covered in carvings, spirals. And there she was, Baba Yaga herself, standing behind the counter. She was not what some expected, not always the terrifying hag of legend, though the potential was there. In her eyes, she was old, yes. Her face a map of wrinkles, her nose long, a little crooked, her chin sharp. Sometimes if you looked closely, you might see a glint like iron, her teeth. She smiled rarely, but when she did, it was memorable. She wore simple, dark clothes, an apron tied around her waist. Her hands were gnarled, but surprisingly nimble as she moved, wiping the counter, tamping coffee into a portafilter. Her movements were precise, economical. She didn't waste energy, she didn't waste words either. Her voice was low, raspy, like stones grinding together, or the rustle of autumn leaves. She watched everyone who entered. Her eyes missed nothing. They were sharp, penetrating. She might offer a curt nod, or a grunt, depending on her mood, or perhaps on you, on what she saw in your soul. She didn't ask for your order right away. She let you look, let you absorb the atmosphere, let the magic settle around you. Gap 3S. Before we dive deeper into the mystique of Baba Yaga's cafe, let's take a moment to engage with you, our curious viewer. Baba Yaga is known for her riddles. They say if you can solve one, you might win her favor. Here's one for you. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. What am I? Gap 5 says. Think you know the answer? Leave your guess in the comments below. Now, let's return to the world where secrets are the currency and every sip of coffee tells a story. Gap 3S. Section 5, a menu etched in birch bark. There was no printed menu, not in the usual sense. Instead, a large piece of birch bark was nailed to the wall. The offerings were burned into it in strange, spidery script. The names of the drinks were unique. Bog water brew, nightshade nectar decaf, forest floor fog, mortal coil cappuccino, and the most famous of all, bone broth latte. Each one sounded more intriguing or more alarming than the last. The prices were not listed in currency, not always. Sometimes it was a memory, a secret, a moment of true honesty. Payment varies, a smaller inscription read. Baba Yaga decided the cost. After she looked at you, after she listened to your heart, some paid with a silver coin, some with a button, some with a tear they hadn't known they would shed. It was all the same to her. Value was a flexible thing in her establishment. The ingredients were not your usual coffee shop fare. Yes, there were coffee beans from dark, forgotten corners of the world, but also herbs gathered by moonlight, spices traded with forest spirits, water from wells that reflected the future, milk from creatures not found in any zoo. Each ingredient was chosen with care. Section 6, the marrow of tomorrow, bone broth prophecies. The bone broth latte was her specialty, her signature creation. It did not smell like coffee, not entirely. It smelled of rich stock, of roasted bones, of earth, and something else, something metallic like old blood or future tears. It was served in a heavy earthenware mug, the color of dried clay. The surface was not smooth, it was swirled like a cloudy sky or a troubled mind. It was a challenge in a cup. To order it was an act of courage, or perhaps desperation. People heard stories about what it could do, what it could show. It was not for the faint of heart. Baba Yaga would watch you as she prepared it, her gaze intense as if measuring your worth or your resilience. The broth simmered in a small cauldron, always bubbling, always ready. She ladled it carefully, added a shot of dark, potent espresso, then a swirl of frothed something, not milk. The foam was the key. It was thick, almost like cream. But it shifted, it moved. Patterns formed and dissolved within it, faces, places, symbols, things that made no sense. At first, Baba Yaga would place the mug before you, gently. Drink, she would say, her voice a low rumble. Section 7, sipping your soul's reflection. Each drink was a mirror, not just the bone broth latte. Though that one was the most direct, the most unsparing. Even a simple shadow-sweet tea held a whisper of what was to come, or what could be. The mortal coil cappuccino might show you the threads of connection to people you knew, to strangers you had yet to meet. The forest floor fog could reveal hidden paths, opportunities you hadn't seen, or dangers lurking nearby. It was not always a grand destiny. Sometimes the visions were small, a lost object found, an argument with a loved one, a moment of unexpected joy. The coffee did not judge, it simply showed. It was up to you, what you did with the knowledge. Some people found comfort, some found fear, some found confusion. Baba Yaga offered no interpretation, she just served the drink and watched, her ancient eyes holding no pity, only understanding. The shop was a test of your courage, of your honesty. Could you face what the drink revealed? Could you accept your own reflection? Some people couldn't finish their cup. Section 8, shadows in the steam, futures in the foam. The atmosphere in Baba's brews and fates was thick. You could almost taste it, even before you ordered. It was a blend of the mundane and the magical, the smell of roasting coffee beans mixed with the scent of damp earth and unknown herbs. The hiss of the espresso machine, underscored by a faint rhythmic creaking, the house settling on its chicken legs or perhaps keeping time to an ancient unheard song. It was alive. Shadows danced in the corners, even on bright days. The light from the small windows seemed reluctant to fully enter. Candles flickered, casting long, wavering shapes on the carved walls, on the faces of the other patrons. People spoke in hushed tones, if they spoke at all. There was a sense of reverence, of anticipation, of slight delicious fear. You were in a place outside of normal time, a place where anything could happen, and often did. When Baba Yaga prepared your drink, the magic intensified. You could feel it, a prickling on your skin, a hum in the air. As she frothed the milk or stirred the broth, tiny lights might spark, or shadows deepen around her hands. The steam rising from the cup was not ordinary steam. It swirled with images, fleeting, half-seen, a face. adore. If you enjoyed this journey into Baba Yaga's world, don't forget to subscribe, share and comment below. Your support helps us bring more magical stories to life. Section 9. The taste that lingers after. Leaving Baba Yaga's coffee shop was like waking from a vivid dream. The ordinary world seemed too bright, too loud, too simple. The sounds of traffic, the chatter of people, it all felt flat after the richness of the hut, after the weight of the knowledge gained from a single cup. You carried something with you, more than just a caffeine buzz. You carried a piece of your future or a clearer view of your past. The taste of the drink lingered. Not just on your tongue, but in your mind, in your soul, the bitterness, the sweetness, the strange earthy flavors. They became a part of you, a reminder of your visit, of the moment you faced your own reflection. In a swirling pattern of foam, some people felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted or understood. Others felt heavier, the weight of what they now knew settling upon them. The experience changed people in small ways or in big ways. They might make different choices, take a new path, avoid a foreseen danger, or embrace a promised joy. The coffee shop on Chicken Legs was more than just a novelty. It was a turning point, a place where destinies were glimpsed.